The Last Clue is a production of Smith Media Team, LLC. If you have any information about this case, please email us at info@smithmediateamllc.com. Listener discretion is advised. Some content may be upsetting to listeners.
A decades-old murder and a renewed investigation by college students. An arrest that shocked a community. And now a grand jury says no charges. Tonight, we look into the 1991 cold case murder of Cynthia Gonzalez, the investigation that reignited hope, the arrest of a suspect more than 3 decades later, and the controversial decision that may have just set this case back decades. This is the case that captured national attention and then collapsed.
Before we get started, though, we want to welcome our new listeners and subscribers from Dublin, Ireland, Saskatchewan, Cocoa Beach, Florida, Medill, Oklahoma. You might know where that is.
I have a couple. Can I say a few?
Of course.
I never get to. I don't think. Have I ever
Fine. Steal the thunder.
Clatskanie, Oregon. San Francisco. I left my heart there. I didn't. It's a song. Lakeville, Minnesota. And Tower Hamlets in London.
I love our international listeners growing.
Yeah. It's fun to see the international cities, country. It's fun to see it all pop up.
It is. But wherever you're listening from tonight, thank you for being part of this community. You can follow The Last Clue wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, with some new shorts, iHeartRadio, and many more.
Are they bathing shorts?
They might be. Are you from Bath, England?
Possibly.
It is possible.
That's been a big discussion in this house.
And you can always join our Facebook community on The Last Clue. And for exclusive content, subscribe on Buzzsprout for just $5 a month or a one-time donation. And as always, keep searching for The Last Clue.
In September of 1991, 25-year-old Cynthia Gonzalez, a young mother living in Arlington, Texas, left her residence under what initially appeared to be routine circumstances, reportedly telling others that she was heading out to meet a client. At the time, there were no immediate red flags, no indication that anything was out of place, no suggestion that this would be the last time she would be seen alive. But as hours passed and Cynthia failed to return home, concern quickly escalated among family members and those close to her, prompting the early stages of a missing persons investigation. As law enforcement began reconstructing her final known movements, investigators were immediately confronted with a fragmented timeline. The lack of surveillance footage, digital tracking, or reliable witness accounts from that era created significant blind spots. At some point after Cynthia left her home, something interrupted her plans. Something investigators were never fully able to document in real time. Her vehicle was later discovered abandoned, a development that fundamentally shifted the direction of this investigation. An abandoned vehicle, particularly in cases where the owner is missing, often signals distress, coercion, or an unexpected escalation. It suggested that Cynthia did not simply walk away from her life, but rather she was prevented from continuing it. 5 days after she was reported missing, the case took a definitive and tragic turn. Cynthia Gonzalez's body was located in a rural area of Johnson County, Texas, miles away from where she had last been seen. The location itself raised immediate questions about transportation, planning, and familiarity with the area.
Yeah, it was on some private property from what I recall.
It was. Authorities determined that she had been shot multiple times, indicating a deliberate act of violence rather than a spontaneous altercation. And we've talked about that before. If you shoot somebody once, that could be a spontaneous interaction.
Right. When you do it repeatedly, there's
a motive.
There's motive, there's passion, there's anger, there's rage, there's some emotion behind doing that several times.
The distance between her last known location and where her body was found suggested the involvement of at least one individual who had both the means and the opportunity to move her. Whether the killing occurred at that rural site or elsewhere before her body was transported remains one of the enduring questions in this case. So let's take a look at this, listeners.
Okay.
If her car was abandoned, what happened during those missing hours? Was she targeted? It's possible in that line of work with a client, it could have been a targeted situation, or did something escalate unexpectedly?
And these are things that we are going to struggle to know, because this is back in the day and age where, like you said, we didn't have the digital tracking. We didn't have the cell phones. We didn't have the cameras, things of that sort. So these are legitimate questions, and I can't wait to hear what our listeners come up with.
And most importantly, who was the last person to see her alive? Because we still don't know.
We don't. There's a lot of questions still here.
From the very beginning, this case had all the hallmarks of a solvable homicide, but something went missing. And without it, the case went cold.
For more than 3 decades, the murder of Cynthia Gonzalez remained unsolved, quietly becoming part of a growing number of cold cases across the country that linger without answers. Despite initial investigative efforts, in the early 1990s, no suspect was ever successfully charged, and the case gradually receded from public attention. But for Cynthia's family, the passage of time did not diminish the impact. It intensified it.
And it never diminishes that impact.
It never.
Over time,
No.
when something is unexplained, that thought is always in your mind. What if I had done this? What if I had called her? What if I had changed plans? It's always there.
Yeah, that what if game can be a dangerous game, and it's one that her family is going to continue to play until there are answers here. And her daughter, who was just 6 years old at the time of Cynthia's death, grew up in the shadow of these unanswered questions, navigating life without any type of closure. The emotional toll of not knowing, of never receiving a definitive explanation for what happened, can be as enduring as the loss itself. Each passing year brought renewed frustration as advancements in forensic science and investigative techniques seemed to offer hope in other cases, but not in this one. Investigators revisited the file periodically, re-examining evidence and following up on leads as new technologies became available. However, cases originating in the early 1990s often suffer from a lack of preserved evidence, incomplete documentation, and investigative limitations that were standard for the time. Witnesses relocate, memories fade, and critical details become harder to verify. In many ways, the case entered a state of suspended animation, open but inactive, waiting for something, anything, to move it forward. More questions. How many cold cases are sitting in evidence rooms right now, waiting?
We will never know.
We will never know. And it's interesting in this particular case that Austin Police Department does not have an active cold case unit.
The Arlington
Police Department. I was thinking of UT. Oh, March Madness going on. How many families are still asking the same question, though? What happened?
All of them involved are still asking the questions.
They are.
That's it. Again, that's stuck in your brain when something like this happens, when a tragedy like this happens, and there's no answers. There's no answers. And for decades, there was no hope.
None.
They had the questions.
Yes, and none of the answers. But then, after 34 years, everything changed.
In an effort to bring renewed attention to unsolved cases, the Arlington Police Department partnered with criminology students at the University of Texas at Arlington, creating an academic initiative that allowed students to analyze real cold case files under professional guidance. These students were tasked with reviewing investigative materials, reassessing timelines, and identifying potential gaps or overlooked connections within long-standing cases. The Cynthia Gonzalez case became one of the focal points of this initiative. By revisiting the evidence with fresh eyes and applying modern analytic approaches, the students contributed to a renewed investigative effort that began to generate new leads.
This is very interesting to me.
According to law enforcement, this collaborative process helped shift the trajectory of the case, ultimately pointing investigators toward a potential suspect. That suspect was identified as Janie Perkins. Late last year, Arlington police arrested Janie Perkins on a charge of capital murder in connection with the 1991 killing of Cynthia Gonzalez, marking a significant development in a case that had remained dormant for over 3 decades. The arrest drew widespread attention, not only because of the length of time that had passed, but also because of the unconventional role that academic research played in reviving the investigation.
Fresh eyes.
For Cynthia's family, the arrest represented a long-awaited breakthrough, a moment that suggested justice might finally be achievable after 34 years of uncertainty. The case, once considered cold, was suddenly active again. So these students come up with this evidence that led investigators to Janie Perkins after 34 years, which is mind-boggling, but it's also very refreshing to, like you said, get a fresh pair of eyes on a case.
Asking more questions because law enforcement doesn't have that cold case unit.
But as we'll talk about in just a minute, was this a breakthrough or a theory that was finally acted on? And if the case was strong enough for arrest, was it strong enough for trial? Because an arrest is not a conviction. And in this case, that distinction mattered.
In 2026, prosecutors presented the case against Janie Perkins to a Tarrant County grand jury, which is a necessary step in determining whether sufficient evidence existed to formally charge her with capital murder. Grand juries operate under a lower threshold than criminal trials, requiring only probable cause rather than proof beyond a reasonable doubt. During the proceedings, evidence collected over the course of the renewed investigation was presented for consideration. This likely included witness statements, investigative findings, and any forensic or circumstantial evidence linking Perkins to the crime. However, after reviewing the case, the grand jury declined to issue an indictment, a decision commonly referred to as a no bill. This outcome effectively halted the prosecution at that stage, preventing the case from moving forward to trial. For the family and the public, the decision was both unexpected and difficult to process, especially following the renewed optimism generated by the arrest. So, what does a no bill really mean?
It's a cop-out. A no bill means that grand jury did not want to take responsibility for saying these students, these kids, found information and evidence that could link this person to the crime. It is an absolute cop-out. I knew that the Tarrant County family court system was crooked, but this is ridiculous. You've got a fresh set of eyes that are working with investigators, and you present them all this evidence and they no-bill it? That is an absolute cop-out.
Well, but does that mean the suspect is innocent?
Absolutely not, because they can bring her back before the grand jury again. And I hope it's a different grand jury, because, man, to take all this in and just say, no, we're going to no-bill it. That's
no charges.
The old term, when I was a child, it was like kissing your sister. It was like a tie. I mean, it just, you take all of this and give a family hope and take it in front of a grand jury and they go, we can't choose.
Undecided. We're going to drop the charges for now. She's free to go. Or do you think it simply means the prosecutors couldn't prove the case?
If law enforcement was involved with the students as they processed this evidence and information and built this case, if the prosecutors couldn't prove the case, then the prosecutors didn't listen. They didn't take everything into consideration. They might be just as guilty as the grand jury giving a no bill by not listening to what law enforcement, these students who are about to make this their life's work, everything that has been presented. If the prosecution did not present that to the grand jury in a way that the grand jury can understand, then it lies just as much on the prosecutors as it does the grand jury.
Yeah, and there was a lot in this case with Miss Janie Perkins, what she had to say and things in the past. And those that are familiar with the case it'll probably spark the memory that her and Cynthia Gonzalez had the same love interest at the time. And Janie Perkins held some pretty big resentment towards that and had even made statements about, wanting Cynthia gone. But we are not part of the grand jury here. So I guess our vote doesn't count.
Well, not even that. Let's just, if you've listened to this podcast, you know there are 3 reasons to commit murder. And I'm not going to go through them because our listeners, the ones that have been with us since day one, they know what they are because I've said it ad nauseum.
Yes, they might be banned. I'm not sure.
Am I going to have to make a donation to Earth Mother every time I give the reasons for murder?
Not yet.
But let's talk about Miss Perkins just for a second. She could not provide the original detectives with an alibi for where she was the night Miss Gonzalez went missing. She failed 2 voluntary polygraph tests when asked if she knew who killed Miss Gonzalez.
Voluntary.
If she killed her. So they asked her both questions. We give a lot of crap to law enforcement over decisions that are made. Let's be clear. They got her to come in and do 2 voluntary polygraph tests and asked her if they knew who killed Miss Gonzalez or if she killed her. Gave her no way out. She failed both of them.
How do you fail something that's voluntary? That's a whole other question within itself.
And Miss Perkins also made statements to investigators that she was glad that Miss Gonzalez was dead and that she'd even thought about killing her or having someone else kill her. Now, polygraph tests, as we know, my true crime fans are people that are giving every bit of their precious time to listen to 2 people talk about these cases that have gone by the wayside. Are true crime fans.
True crime fans. Polygraphs are not admissible in court. So there's that.
And Miss Perkins maintained that she was not involved in the murder.
And here we are.
Cold cases are uniquely vulnerable to evidentiary challenges, and the Cynthia Gonzalez case is no exception. The passage of more than 3 decades introduces complications that can significantly weaken even the most promising investigations. Physical evidence may have degraded or been lost, and forensic techniques available at the time of the original arrest were far less advanced than those used today. Additionally, the absence of digital records such as cell phone data, surveillance footage, or electronic communications limits investigators' ability to reconstruct events with precision. In cases like this, prosecutors often rely heavily on circumstantial evidence and witness testimony, both of which can be difficult to substantiate after such a long period of time. Reports indicate that the defense challenged the strength of the case, arguing that it was built more on reconstructed narratives than on definitive physical proof. In a legal system that requires evidence to meet strict standards of admissibility and reliability, such challenges can be divisive. So I ask you, we've talked about DNA evidence on many of our podcasts before. Do you think this case could have been solved if it happened today?
I do. And honestly, I think it's still solvable if they can come back with more evidence against said suspect. So, yes. Could this case have been solved if it happened today? Yes, my opinion.
So my other question I'm going to change up a bit because I had this in my mind and I want to go just a little bit bolder.
Okay.
And this is absolutely not disrespectful to the students that put time and effort into this at the University of Texas at Arlington. We humbly support what you did. Actually, to be honest, I think we're both kind of amazed by it.
I think it's pretty cool.
What you were able to do. Do you think that if the Arlington Police Department pulled in a company like Othram, which is right in their backyard, and said, hey, we got no build on this, we need more evidence, is there anything in this here is everything we have, whether it's paper, whether it's clothing, whatever they have left, can you extract any DNA from any of these items? Do you think that there's still a chance that a company like Othram could help solve this case?
I personally do, and here's why. Because when the Arlington students took hold of this case, they were given all of the evidence except the physical. So any physical evidence in this case was not touched by these students. So if it is still there, it would still be intact as it has not been handled.
I am going to take the pessimistic route on this because we have not requested the case file on this as of yet.
We have not.
It's going to depend, even as good and as wonderful as Othram is, it's going to depend on what the Arlington Police Department actually has for physical evidence. It's going to come down to that. It's going to come down to every little piece of evidence that they have for physical for whether Othram could come up with anything.
That's absolutely fair. And I actually kind of like it when we agree to disagree because I do, and I'm sure you do. You can disagree if you like. We like hearing all sides. All sides.
Because in the end, the burden never changes.
The involvement of University of Texas at Arlington students brought a unique dimension to the investigation, highlighting both the potential benefits and limitations of academic collaboration in real-world criminal cases. I'm still struggling with this cold, y'all. While fresh perspectives can lead to new insights, they also raise questions about methodology and the experience of them and standards required for the evidence to hold up in court. So, our question to you, and you, and you, and you, should students be involved in active cold case investigations?
100%. 100%. You're getting a fresh set of eyes, which you always need. What happens when they talk about a cold case and they're talking about a police department or a sheriff's office? They talk about a cold case and then the case goes cold and then a new detective
takes
or
over.
A new deputy or whomever comes in and puts a fresh set of eyes on the case. 100% students should be involved in active cold case investigations because they are bringing that perspective. They may see something that nobody else has seen.
Right.
Bring in all the students, bring in every university that has a cold case or forensics division, bring them all in, let them all take a look at it. There is 100% no reason not to.
So with the fresh set of eyes and the fresh perspective of these students helping out with cold cases, Does that outweigh experience, do you think?
No, they have to work in tandem.
Okay.
If the investigator is the old grumpy investigator who's 55 and he's seen everything.
Whoa.
Well, I'm trying to paint a picture, and he's seen everything and he's done everything, and nobody knows more about that case than he does, and these darn kids and their rock and roll music aren't going to come in here. If he's going to be like that, then it won't work. It's just like a relationship. They have to yin and yang each other so that all sides are seen of this. So a fresh perspective does not outweigh experience.
Okay.
They have to work in tandem. If both parties want to work together, yes, it will work. If one party is, it's my way or the highway, it's not going to work.
And that's completely fair. I agree. I think it's a combination of the fresh perspective and the experience that is going to get it done. So we agree there. How about risks? Do you think there are any unnecessary risks? And do the risks outweigh the potential?
The only thing that I can think of where the risk would outweigh anything is on the physical evidence, because that is a piece of the investigation that can't be compromised at all in any form or fashion. If a detective allows a student to take a piece of physical evidence from a cold case and says, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and don't do this, you have to trust him. Don't sneeze on it. Don't breathe on it. Don't do anything. Wear a mask, wear gloves, wear a hazmat suit, whatever the case may be. If the student doesn't follow that protocol, then yes, there is a risk of physical evidence being damaged. However, in any other realm, I don't see the risk in allowing students to take a look at a cold case investigation. I
agree. I mean, taking a look at the evidence, the paperwork, I'm with you on that whole physical part, because, and when you said bringing in that, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, there are also those people where that's the last thing they're going to hear. They're not going to hear that word don't. And they're going to completely forget about what was going on. So I'm with you on the whole physical evidence thing.
And innovation doesn't always equal proof.
No.
So again, allowing the students, I don't have a problem with it. I think the students have to follow the protocol of the investigators, because they are the trained professionals in this situation. Not that the students aren't. It's just that the investigators have had a lot to do with the case, and so they...
And with the cold case being so old, that physical evidence is it's easily compromised.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'm with you.
And especially in a situation like this, for Cynthia Gonzalez's family, the arrest of Janie Perkins brought renewed hope after decades of uncertainty. But the grand jury's decision not to indict has once again left them without answers, forcing them to confront the possibility that justice may remain elusive forever. I know the answer to this question, so I'm going to ask our listeners.
Okay. I'll stay quiet.
No, you won't. I know you won't. If this situation, the same situation as Cynthia Gonzalez, happened to a member of your family, would you keep fighting after 34 years? We want to know. You can contact us on socials. You can email us at info@smithmediateamllc.com. Do you have a situation similar to this, a cold case, if you will, involving your family? Let us know. Let us know in the comments. If you don't feel like sharing that publicly, let us know via email. Again, info@smithmediateamllc.com. We always keep information from our email private. We don't disclose names unless the person says it's okay to name me. But if you want to stay silent, if you know something about any cold case, whether it involves you or not, if you have information, you will stay completely under the radar. So the big question, does a decision like this, like what the Tarrant County grand jury made, does it change everything?
It definitely changes something. I don't know if it changes everything, but it definitely changes some things.
Now, what I see, and I want to make sure I give all respect in the world to Cynthia Gonzalez's family. And I say this with the utmost respect. I see an opportunity. So they went before the grand jury before and got a no bill. Mm-hmm. So now they know they've presented that case to the grand jury. They've seen whatever the courts will show them. They have that knowledge. Now they can go back. They can regroup, just like a football team. You go out, you get your ass kicked by 40 points one week. What do? You don't just go back and go, well, okay. I mean,
we'll try again next week.
I guess you go back, you hit the weights harder, you work harder, you run harder, you practice harder.
You watch tapes, you rewatch tapes, you drop new plays.
That's what I feel like they have the opportunity to do right here. They presented the case. They got a no bill. They didn't get, no, she's not guilty. Back off. You got a tie. You got no bill. You got a tie. So I feel like they have the opportunity to represent the case knowing now what the grand jury saw in the first case. I see this as an opportunity to finally bring this case to closure.
It's going to take some work and definitely is going to need to be reworked. But yeah, there's still opportunity there. But what happens next? Although the grand jury declined to indict, the case does remain open, and prosecutors retain the ability to revisit if new evidence emerges, like we've just talked about. Cold cases are often revisited multiple times before they are resolved, and advancements in forensic science, they continue to improve and provide new opportunities for breakthroughs. So, who knows something they haven't said? What piece of evidence is still missing? And will this case ever truly be solved?
What do you think, listeners? Are we that close to solving this case? Or was this a major setback that will possibly never be overcome? What do you think? Tell us on social media. Tell us via email.
Share your thoughts, please.
Tell us what you think.
And now for our opinion segment, Clueless.
Let's be blunt. This is exactly why cold cases are so frustrating. You get momentum, you get headlines, you get hope, and then it all collapses. Because hope is not evidence, and speculation is not proof. Here's the reality. If you're going to make an arrest in a 30-year-old murder case, you better be able to prove it, and beyond a reasonable doubt, not beyond a theory. In this case, it raises some uncomfortable questions. Was this investigation pushed too fast? Was the arrest driven by pressure? Or was this simply the reality of trying to solve a case that time had nearly erased? Because in the end, the standard did not change. The burden did not change. The law did not change. But the outcome, it stayed the same. No charges, no closure, no justice. And for the family, and for all families that live day to day with a cold case in their life, that's the hardest part.
The Last Clue is a production of Smith Media Team, LLC. If you have any information regarding this case, please email us at info@smithmediateamllc.com. You can follow The Last Clue wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and many more. And for exclusive content, subscribe on Buzzsprout for just $5 per month. As always, keep searching for The Last Clue.